Out of the Shadows, Part 2. Revenge is a dish best served cold. And for me, it was going to be a gourmet meal. The Dupree's family had thrown me away like I was nothing, but now I had the power to show them exactly what a mistake that was. The social takeover. It began with the simplest move, taking over their social circle. Cape Town's elite thrived on status, and now that I was the daughter of Sophia and David Daniels, I had more of it than Sarah or her parents could ever dream of. My mother, Sophia, was an expert in social warfare, polished, elegant, but with an edge that could slice through steel. "We'll start with our friends," she said one evening over dinner, as if we were discussing something as mundane as the weather. "They abandoned you, so now, let's make sure they never have a place to return to." It wasn't long before the invitations started rolling in. Gala events, charity balls, exclusive yacht parties. Everywhere Sarah and her parents once held sway, I made my entrance with grace and confidence. Sarah would see me across the room, sipping champagne, laughing with the same people who used to praise her. I didn't have to say a word. My presence was enough to rattle her. The tension was palpable at every event. Sarah would smile, but it never reached her eyes. She was falling apart inside, and I could see it. And then came the moment that set the wheels of my revenge spinning faster than I could have hoped. It was at a charity auction. The event was raising funds for a children's hospital, and, as expected, all of Cape Town's elite were in attendance. Sarah had donated a piece of artwork she'd commissioned, something abstract and expensive that she was showing off to anyone who would listen. I, on the other hand, donated an antique necklace that had been passed down through generations in the Daniels family. It wasn't just valuable, it was iconic. The second people laid eyes on it, the buzz started. Everyone wanted it. The auction was heated, bids flying higher and higher until it sold for an astronomical amount. I made sure to flash a smile at Sarah as I passed by her after the auctioneer announced my donation as the highest-selling item of the night. "Oh, don't feel bad, Sarah," I said sweetly. "I'm sure your art will find a lovely home." Eventually, her eyes narrowed. She was seething, and I loved every minute of it. The school showdown. But it wasn't enough to just beat her in social settings. No, I wanted to crush her where it hurt the most, at school. After all, she had turned the entire school against me when I was kicked out. Now it was my turn to flip the script. I started slowly. The first move was reclaiming my place as the top student in our class. I had always been smart, but the Dupree's family never cared about my academic achievements. Now, with the Daniels resources backing me, I had access to the best tutors, the most prestigious extracurriculars, and, let's be honest, the right influence with the school administration. Soon, my name was on every academic honor board, while Sarah's grades started slipping. She was too focused on trying to outshine me in every social aspect, and it was taking its toll. The teachers who used to adore her were now fawning over me, and I could see her cracking under the pressure. But that wasn't enough. Sarah needed to feel what it was like to be the outcast. So, with a little help from some well-placed gossip, I made sure her so-called friends started drifting away. I didn't have to do much. People love to turn on the weak. I just gave them a nudge. I heard Sarah's parents had to sell one of their properties, I'd say casually in the hallways. Or, did you know she barely passed her last exam? Shame. Her parents must be so disappointed. It worked like a charm. Sarah, the once popular girl, was now the subject of whispers and side eyes. And when the inevitable happened, when she finally lost her cool and screamed at one of her remaining friends in the school courtyard, it was like watching a beautifully orchestrated play fall into place. Everyone saw her meltdown. Her carefully curated image was shattered. She was no longer the golden girl of the Dupree's family. She was just a mess, spiraling out of control. The family battle. But the piece de resistance came when my biological parents, Sophia and David, decided to make things personal with the Dupree's family. We knew their business was struggling, and David had the connections to make sure it stayed that way. One day, I sat with my father in his office, the sleek glass windows overlooking the Cape Town skyline. "Are you sure you want to go through with this, Keisha?" he asked, though there was no hesitation in his voice. He was willing to do whatever it took to avenge me. "Yes," I said firmly. They need to know what it feels like to be powerless. David nodded and made a few calls. It was all very quiet, very professional. But within weeks, the Dupree's family's business started losing key contracts. Their once booming empire began crumbling, and I could see the desperation on Mr. and Mrs. Dupree's faces at every event. They tried to keep up appearances, but the cracks were showing. They had to sell their beach house in Clifton, their luxury cars were being swapped out for more modest models, and suddenly, they were no longer the family everyone envied. I, on the other hand, was thriving. Every time I saw them, I made sure to remind them just how far they'd fallen. "Oh, you sold the beach house?" I'd ask, feigning concern. "That must have been such a hard decision. We're actually renovating ours right now. Maybe you could come and visit sometime if you're not too busy?" The look of defeat in their eyes was worth every second of my struggle. The final showdown. The final nail in the coffin came at Sarah's 18th birthday party. It was supposed to be a lavish affair, a grand event to mark her coming of age. But by then, the Dupree's family was a shadow of its former self. They had rented out a smaller venue, cut the guest list, and were clearly trying to pretend everything was fine. I, of course, was invited. I showed up in a custom-designed dress, courtesy of my biological parents, looking every bit the part of Cape Town's newest golden girl. The second I walked in, all eyes were on me. Sarah tried to put on a brave face, but I could see the rage bubbling under the surface. The night went on, tension mounting with every passing moment. And then it happened. Sarah snapped. In the middle of the dance floor, in front of everyone, she confronted me. "You think you're so much better than me, don't you?" she spat, her face red with anger. I smiled calmly. "I don't need to think it, Sarah. It's just the truth." She lunged at me, but before she could reach me, security stepped in. It was chaos, guests gasping, people trying to calm Sarah down, her parents rushing to her side in embarrassment. As I watched the scene unfold, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. The Dupree's family had tried to destroy me, but I had risen higher than they could ever imagine. And now, they were the ones crumbling. I didn't need to raise my voice or lift a finger. My revenge was complete, and it was sweeter than I could have ever dreamed. End of Part 2. In Part 3, the Dupree's family struggles to recover from their downfall, while Keisha solidifies her place in Cape Town's elite society. But will Sarah go quietly, or is she planning her own revenge? Stay tuned. Please share and subscribe.